Hello everyone and welcome to an amazing game that was played in round 6 of this year's European Chess Championship. It is the legend himself, Vasyl Ivanchuk, versus Polish international master Jakub. And you guys requested a Chucky game. It's been a week now since Chucky's birthday. Chucky was born on March 18th in 1969, so some 10 years after the legendary candidates tournament of 1959, but just in time to follow the Bobby Fischer saga. Chucky here was already 3 years old when Bobby was battling it out against Boris Spassky in their legendary World Chess Championship match in Reykjavik in 1972. So not a bad time to be alive. But the reason I'm showing you this game is, apart from it being Chucky's 56th birthday, is that it's absolutely incredible. And the only reason that I could possibly think of for you not to enjoy this game would be if you are a Caro-Kann player. If you are a Caro-Kann player, you will hate this game and this video. Because everyone will play this against you. It's just so good, and probably something that you don't encounter as much, because I play a lot against the Caro-Kann, and I've never tried this with white, and could become part of my daily repertoire now that I've seen this game handled in such manner by the great Vasyl Ivanchuk. So let's check it out. I don't want to overhype it, but you'll see. I mean, it's just one of those games. So Vasyl with white opens with pawn to e4. Jakub replies with pawn to c6. He goes for the Caro-Kann and pawn to d4. Okay, pretty standard way. We take the center, pawn to d5 and pawn to e5. Now, probably why I don't encounter it as much is that I'm a knight to c3 player, but I might start playing the advanced variation now that I've seen this game. Bishop to f5, standard reply, and now popular here are knight f3 and pawn to h4. Also some other moves like knight to d2, bishop to e2. Vasyl goes for knight to c3. It is actually the third most popular continuation in this position. Pawn to e6, so the so-called van der Wiel attack, and now pawn to g4. Similar to, let's say, the bayonets attack, you will go after the light square bishop with pawn to g4, bishop to g6, and now knight g to e2. Okay, knight is coming to f4. Maybe you're going to put pressure on the bishop. Pawn to c5, also not something odd. Black will often waste the tempo here, playing pawn to c6 first and then pawn to c5, and it makes a lot of sense going after white's strong center. Bishop to e3 and now knight to c6. We have d captures on c5, abandoning the center, giving up the e5 pawn, knight captures on e5, and now knight to d4. Again, nothing new being played here. As you can see, both of them are playing fairly quickly. I imagine Jakub is a Caro-Kann player. Vasyl prepared this line, so of course they both know what's what. Knight back to c6. You could throw in some other moves. You could go maybe knight e7. You could capture on c5. Both can be played. But here, knight to c6. We have bishop to b5, pinning the knight, and knight to e7. Rook to c8 is a move that should be played here, but knight to e7 is a move that, knight g to e7 is a move that many people play, and there are quite a lot of games in the database with this exact same position, and for some reason everyone plays it, but it's terrible. And you'll see why, and Chucky shows us why. He plays pawn to f4. You can see that he played it within 2 minutes, so I don't think he knows the position, by heart, but of course he knows the themes and the standard motives. Here, pawn to h5 is played. Now, if you just played a rook to c8, the move we discussed that would really help out black in this position, after queen e2, there's just no move black can make here. It seems like there's a lot you can do here with black, but there just isn't. You can't really get the king anywhere. You can't really move this knight. You could try and challenge the bishop. Let's say you play pawn to a6, you go bishop a4, and now you try some h5 business here. Already f5 is coming, and after he captures, let's say castles queenside, and this is terrible. The bishop is coming to. You could maybe play bishop g5. You could play bishop to f4. Here the bishop is slicing this way. The other rook is coming to e1. You're going to have incredible pressure on that e file. So this is just resigns territory basically. But after this pawn to f4 move, Jakub tried the immediate pawn to h5, and now look at this, pawn to f5, e captures on f5, and now pawn to g5. Interestingly, this position has been reached a couple of times, and everyone played pawn to g5 here. for some reason. After queen to e2, I will show it. Obviously, it's very, very complicated, but I imagine a lot of you guys will try this against the Caro-Kann now that you've seen this video. And the moves being handled in such a classy way by the great Vasyl Ivanchuk. Queen to e2, and there's nothing black can do here. It's just that bad of a position. You can't even think of a move to play here. To give you an example, if you play h captures and g4, maybe one of the reasons why everyone plays g5 here. Let's say you capture a pawn. Bishop to f4. Now you have bishop slicing all the way. The queen is here. You're going to castle queenside. You're going to put a rook on e1. And black has no time to do anything. Black can go, let's say, queen d7. You will castle queenside. And let's say black castles queenside as well. Because why not? All of a sudden, everything falls apart. Knight captures on d5. And now, if knight captures on d5, you will play knight captures on c6. Now, you can't really capture this. If you capture it, then just bishop a6 check, and the bishop pair gets the job done. There's no square for the black king. You're going to have to give up the queen. So, of course, you cannot capture the knight. You could maybe throw in a knight captures on f4, as it also attacks the white queen. But then queen e5, threatening queen to b8. Checkmate with the black queen still hanging. And now, there is a trick that black can use to get out of this, but only temporarily. Knight to e2 check. Point being that if king moves to b1, queen captures on d1, and you checkmate the white king. But of course, the white queen will just capture, and you cannot capture the knight. The black queen is still hanging, and you can't really move the queen anywhere, as rook captures, rook will be checkmate. So you might try attacking the white queen on e2, but now you just start trading. Rook captures on d7, rook captures on a2. And the knight captures on a7 with check. The rook is nicely defended. King to b8, and now you just gobble up the rook. Let's say king captures on a7. And yes, you are only up an exchange, but after pawn to c6, it's resigns time. There's nothing you can do. If you try to remaneuver, then pawn to c7, and the rook to d8 is coming, whatever you play. Or if you don't move the bishop, then even just c8 queen. And if you move the bishop, again, doesn't really matter where. You're going to play rook d8. Now you have to give up the rook, or you capture it even better and give up the rook. And now you will just be up a full rook and an exchange. So after e captures on f5, queen to e2 is the move. It's a move in many of these positions, but obviously, a most elusive one is no one plays it. So, remember that if you're going to give this system a try. Pawn to g5, also very, very strong. It's very hard for black to make a move regardless of what you play. And there is a game that reached this exact same position, Aron Thormai versus Björgvin Jonsson, where a6 was played. And a6 is in fact the top move recommended by the engine. But even with that, white won the game very nicely. But here we have pawn to h4. This is a beautiful find by Jakub, as it sort of stops queen e2. Not sort of, completely. If you play queen e2 now, which is the move that we've been trying to play all this time, and probably, Vasyl was building up to play it. If you play queen e2 now, all of a sudden bishop h5, you cannot keep the queen here. And once the queen moves, the black queen moves to d7, and all of the tricks that existed no longer exist. Plus, you cannot go queenside, as the bishop is stopping castles queenside. So after pawn to h4, we have queen to d2, and now bishop to h5. Okay. Vasyl will not be castling queenside, but now bishop to a4 and pawn to a6. Also, maybe g6 can be played with some hope of maybe playing bishop g7 in castles, but black would not be in time. White would just trade knights here. Let's say captures, or even b captures, even better. And the queen comes to d4, and you can forget about castling. Even bishop to d4, you can forget about castling. You have to move the rook g8, rook h7, and just keep this terrible, terrible position. So after bishop a4, pawn to a6 was played, and now castles kingside. Doesn't matter, the other rook will come to e1, and you don't need to castle queenside. It's not like black can do really anything here. We have queen to d7, rook a to e1, and now comes pawn to f4. If you're wondering why such a move, pawn to f4, it's because if you castle queenside, because what else is there, all of a sudden bishop f4, it's the move we play in pretty much every line, and now after rook to e8, you can just trade. Bishop captures, knight captures on c6, and now you go knight to a4, the knight is coming to b6, the royal fork is being threatened, the king cannot go queenside, and whatever you try, let's say you go here, knight to b6, still traps the queen. So there's that. So after rook a to e1, pawn to f4, and now bishop captures on f4, king to d8, it's definitely one way to do it. You don't need the castle, but it's important to get the king off of the e-file. And now Vasyl even finds time for rook to h1. You could just play maybe rook f2, or you could go queen to e3, or you could, you know, start with pawn to b4 right away, as the knight here is... well, cannot move, but king to h1. Get the king out of danger, and you still have all the time in the world. There's no need to rush anything. We have pawn to h3, bishop to g3, making room for the queen to come to f4, bishop to g6, and now queen to f4. And it's not that Vasyl is finding only moves in the position. It's just that any move is good for white here, and every move is bad for black here. We have rook to c8, getting the rook into the game, gaining more control over that c7 square, and now pawn to b4. Like we said, the knight cannot move, and when you have a position that where white plays pawn to b4, and there isn't, you know, an immediate follow-up that you can think of, or, you know, that can even challenge pawn to b4, you know that the game is already over. We have queen to c7, dreaming of a queen trade, queen back to e3. We have queen back to d7, and pawn to a3. Slowly building up the position, and Vasyl is already down to 5 minutes on the clock, so it's not as if he just blitzed out home preparation and he just won the game. No, he's fighting here, valiantly. We have queen to g4, getting the queen into the game. Now rook to f4. Sort of the theme of this game is, you know, just limiting the mobility of black's pieces, and rook f4 does that beautifully. Forces the queen to go back. You could go queen captures on g5, but then the queen is out of the game, and you can just, you know, further harass it with knight to f3, and there's not really a good move for the black queen. You know, if you're not thinking about something like queen to h5, but then rook h4, and then the rook hangs. So you really have nothing here. The queen has to go back, queen to d7, and now queen to f2. The threat being the very simple rook captures on f7, because you just don't care. I mean, your pieces are so good and black's pieces are so bad. This is you know, this is textbook you know, pieces values, because, you know, some knights are worth 3 points, some certainly are not, some rooks are worth 5, you know, some certainly are not, and so on and so on. King to e8, getting the king out of the way, because what else do you do? You play something like rook c7, rook captures, and f7 is coming. You just don't care. So here king to e8 was played, sort of keeping around that f7 square, but now knight to f5. The other knight will come to d4, so it doesn't really matter. And if black does not react to this, knight to d6 check is coming. So bishop captures on f5, rook captures, of course the knight is pinned, you cannot capture, and pawn to d4. We have knight to e4, now again going for knight to d6, king to d8, and now rook captures on f7, and he was in this position on move 30 that Jakub resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Beautifully done by Vasyl, and we could throw in a couple of more moves just to see why black would fall apart so quickly. Let's say we go queen e6. Okay, now maybe you can activate the knight or something. There is no way to defend this bishop before we move the queen. Rook captures on f8 is the next move. There's no stopping that. You cannot move the knight to defend f8 because the queen is hanging. And if you just go back, king to e8, you just came from there, knight to d6 check, and then you capture, so it doesn't matter. So let's say you go queen e6, you give up the bishop. Let's say rook captures, let's say rook captures, let's say queen captures on f8. Let's say you get your king to d7 because it is the only square available to the black king. Let's say you play queen captures on g7, and now you somehow play queen d5, you sort of activate. We can finish this game off with a beautiful opera house mate. Opera house mate would be a queen sacrifice on b8, but we can also sacrifice it on g8. Look at this. Bishop b3, we attack the queen, and once the queen moves to, let's say, f5, because it is the only square available, knight to f6 check, and king to d8, we can throw in a nice queen to g8 check, and the only move black has is to capture the white queen. Knight captures, rook to e8 will be checkmate, and that is pretty much it. This is covered by the rook, this is covered by the bishop, and there you have it. A beautiful opera house checkmate, if we can call it that. I mean, it's on the other side of the board, but you know, I hope you guys don't mind. So yeah, beautiful game by Vasyl Ivanchuk, and definitely I will give this system a try against the Caro-Kann. Like I said, I'm a knight c3 player. I'm not really an advanced player, but I will try pawn to e5 if I can get interesting positions like these. Probably they are extremely hard to play, and probably of course black has a lot as well. but you know, it's interesting, so why not? I will give it a try. Maybe you guys liked it as well. You know, try, you know, beat some Caro-Kann players with it. So yeah, beautifully done by Vasyl. He had a pretty rough start to the tournament, but he racked up 3 wins in a row, and I believe he's doing okay now in today's game. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but we'll see how he does. But yeah, I know a lot of you guys requested a game for Vasyl's 56th birthday, so here it is. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you improve your game against the Caro-Kann. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Patrick James, and I would like to thank Christopher Medima, David Gasparian, Elias Wilhelm, and Peter Van Dulst for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.